Hey guys, welcome to another Homelab Series video today. In today's video, we'll be showing you how you can create a Ceph cluster. We won't obviously be doing it in like the best practice of like having actually multiple physical nodes and whatnot, because I only currently have one maze form MSO1. But eventually I want to actually use the Proxmox Ceph and actually cluster it when I can get 3 devices. But I'll be showing you how you can at least get it set up if you want to try to test it out before you actually have 3 physical devices that you can use. And 3 is the minimum. Obviously, if money was not an object, you could do 10, 20, 100 if you really wanted to. So, but we're going to show you 3 so that we can at least show you how to get started and have some fun with it. So, let's go. All right, so the first thing that we need to do is set up DNS for all of our essentially servers that we'll create. So we will create actually 4 servers, 3 nodes, but then like 1 master to like actually, in this case, like run Ceph admin and commands like that. So we'll keep our nodes separate. I've already actually edited the DNS because I actually tried to create this video one time and then I ultimately failed because I ran into an issue, but we figured that out. So essentially what we have here is our 3 nodes, so we'll name them Ceph-node 1, 2, and 3, and then our Ceph master, which would just be running our Ceph admin commands and hosting like the web GUI and everything. After updating your DNS, I also updated the Ansible inventory. So in our inventory, we have the host as well. So we are all set with all the GitLab related items that we need here. So we can run actually our Ansible playbooks to at least create the servers right now. So what we'll do is create and patch the VM. So we'll create, in this case, VM name Dragon Ceph master. The IP was 122, I think. 122. And then the host name, we'll just name it Ceph master. We'll hit next and launch, and then we'll repeat this for the other 2 as well, or other 3 nodes as well. So we'll go back to the workflow template. We'll hit launch again. Dragon Ceph node 1. This would be 123, and Ceph node 1. Launch that. So that will create, and then we'll repeat here, get 2 more in here. Launch Dragon Ceph node 2, 124. I believe it's 124. 124, yep. And then Ceph node 2. And then we got 1 more, which will be Ceph node 3. The thing, I should probably update the playbook so I can specify like memory and CPU parameters as well. So right now it's just copying based off of my template, which my template is like 1 CPU and 1 gig of RAM. So I need to increase those because it will use up more than that. So Ceph node 3, and we'll hit launch. So we can go back to the workflow template so we can see all these are running right now. So we'll want those to finish before we start editing things. But in our Proxmox here, we can see Ceph node, Ceph master is created. It's still setting up, but we will update these to be 4 gigs of RAM and 4 CPUs. And for the nodes, we need to add a new disk as well. In this case, we're just going to create a 100 gigabyte disk because this is more for demoing purposes than actual creating a real Ceph cluster for like production instances, right? So we'll wait for these to finish, and then once we finish this, we will get everything configured in Proxmox and increase the resources. All right, now that all the VMs are created, we'll go into our Proxmox and actually go update all these. So I need to actually stop all these VMs real quick so that I can increase the resources and then start them back up. And then once we're good with the resources, we will be able to log in and do the configurations, which is the most interesting part of this. It's a lot of trial and error, I can tell you at first, but once you have it going, it's so great. So Ceph Master, we don't need another drive here. All we just need is just to up its resources, so we can start that back up now. For the nodes here, we'll do the same thing, but we'll add an extra hard drive. And then we'll add a hard drive, and we'll make it a 100 gig disk here for now. 100 gigs, and we're good. So we'll start this back up as well, and then 2 more. So edit these. Edit. We do 4, and add another hard disk. At 100, and then 1 more. We'll start this one up, and then edit this 1, 2. And depending on your use case, you might want to, give it more resources if you're planning to actually make this into like a production cluster. You definitely want to probably give it more resources so that more memory and RAM means more caching, better utilization usage and CPU, especially if you're doing some more heavy duty stuff. But in this case, 100 should suffice for what I need to do to show you guys how it works. All right, so now we got Ceph Master, Node 1, Node 2, and Node 3. So what we'll do here is SSH to Ceph Master, and we will log in. So for the Ceph Master configuration, there is a few more things here that we'll have to do, because we'll have to install Ceph Admin, Podman, and Common Ceph. So the first thing that we need to do is actually install the release repo. So if you were to go to downloadceph.com, we're going to grab it from there, Pacific, RPM Pacific. EL8, because I'm running Oracle Linux 8, we're going to do noarch, and we'll be grabbing their Ceph release 1 here. So we'll copy that link, and what you can do is just do a yum install of the link, which will grab that RPM. And then once this is done installing, what we can do is now install Ceph Admin, as well as Podman and Ceph Common. The reason why we need Ceph Common for this will be essentially so that we can run the Ceph commands to do the orchestration. And it just orchestrates, adding a host, configuring it, and making it ready for, it to be a node, essentially. So we'll let this run. It should take a few seconds. It shouldn't take too long. But while that runs, we can also configure our nodes. So there's a few prereqs for our nodes before you can do the Ceph add, adding that host, because it will require certain packages to be installed already. So what we can do is Ceph node 1 and log in. We'll install the prereqs, which will be Python 3, Podman, and if you don't have some like time synchronization installed, and because I'm using the minimal install, you'll probably need like cronny installed if you're using like Oracle Linux 8. It could be like NTPD if you're using other systems, but cronny will be the one that we will be using here. And then, so now Ceph is installed on the Ceph Master, so we can do Ceph Admin install to install any packages or prereqs for Ceph Admin. And then what we'll do here is do Ceph Admin bootstrap. So we'll bootstrap it. The monitor IP, which will be the IP of the host for Ceph Master, which I think was 122. We can double check that here real quick in the DNS. 122. And then we'll also allow for fully qualified domain names, because I do have it set up with DNS for fully qualified domain names. So we will now run that. So it'll go through its validation, do some stuff, install the things that it needs to install. And then you can see here that it's pulling containers. So that's what Podman is used for. No time sync service is running, so it will install it on its own, but we will need to actually install it on the nodes itself. So that's why we're doing that install here. But once this is all finished, essentially you will be able to get a GUI to essentially log into on A443 and view the cluster itself from a web user interface, which will make it very easy to take a look and set up. So while that installs, we'll start cron D, and make sure it's enabled in case we ever need to, if the machine ever reboots. And that's essentially all you need to do for the node. So what we'll have to do is now go to node 2 and 3 to do the same thing. So we'll log in. We'll install Python 3, Podman, and Cronny. Oh, well, it's just Cronny, there's no D. There we go. And we'll let that install too as well, and then we'll do it for node 3 as well when this is done. So so now the Ceph master is completed. So you can see here in the logs, it will actually give you a login URL for the node, as well as the username and password. And that's key because you can't log in without it. So we'll hit Ceph master. It has its own self-signed set, so you can accept that. So the username was admin, and then the password we'll copy from here. It will then prompt you for a new password, which is a good practice, so you're not using a self-generated password or if you lose it. So we'll just type in a new password here. We'll change password, and we'll log back in with that password. So from here, you can see the Ceph cluster. There really isn't much going on, and your health warning is enabled, or showing up as what it is, because essentially there are less than 3 disks. So you can't really be running Ceph with less than 3 disks, right? Or OSDs is what they essentially initialize. But it's a pretty good dashboard to kind of see overall view. So what we can do now is log into the last node and get that configured and prepped. So we'll install Python 3, Podman, and Cronny. And I just realized I didn't on node 2. I didn't actually enable Cronny, so we need to go back and do that. So we'll just SSH Ceph node 2. So systemctl start Cronny D and enable it. All right. So now we'll get with node 1 and node 2. Node 3 is still installing, but that's okay. So what we need to also do, so as part of the bootstrap, it will create a public key that Ceph will use. This public key that Ceph will use to essentially SSH to the node and configure it for setup. So what we will actually want to do is do an SSH copy ID -i and -f-i, the node, the file itself. So Ceph, the public key, pub, and then the host that you want to put it on, essentially. So we'll run that, we'll accept it, and we will add the key. So that added the key for that. We'll do node 2, and then same thing for node 3. So now, essentially, when we run the Ceph command to add the host, it will SSH with that key and just authenticate, so you don't have to worry about the authentication between the host. Let's see if the third one's done. Yeah, so the third one's done, so we can start Cronny D and enable it. And that should be all we need to do for the host. So now we're back on our Ceph master server. What we can do here is do Ceph orc for orchestration, host, and we'll add Ceph node 1, and we'll just use the identifier and the IP to be the exact same. So we'll just repeat Ceph node 1 and hit enter. So this will essentially go through all the things that it needs to do and add the node. So we'll do the same thing for 2 and 3. So 2, and then 3. So now officially we should have, it should show up as 3 nodes, which is 3 hosts. So I got 4 hosts obviously, but 3 hosts in 3 nodes in the GUI with the master server. But this doesn't create any of the OSDs. So we have to add the OSDs separately, but you can't add them until you add the host. So if you take a look and do like an fdisk disk list, we can see that then the new hard drive, the 100 gig hard drive that we added, will be on dev SDB. So what we can do here now is do Ceph org again, but we'll do a daemon add OSD Ceph node 1 dot dragon.local, and we'll add the disk for dev SDB on from Ceph node 1. So we'll add that disk. So it'll run, it'll do some configurations, add the disk. Eventually it'll get there. It takes a few seconds. So it created, and then you can see in here we have one total, one up, and we'll do the same thing for node 2 and node 3. So this essentially gives you your replication redundancy with the 3 disks and the 3 nodes. If you wanted to use erasure coding, you would actually need a minimum of 4 nodes to actually make it work. There's a lot of math behind that one. I still haven't fully understood that yet, so we're just gonna stick to replication for now, just to show you guys. But I will definitely make like another video when I start like playing around with it and understanding it, and then definitely when I make like my Proxmox Ceph cluster with 3 miniforms, I will definitely be making another video on this. So now we have all 3 nodes added. So you see we got 3 OSDs, they're all 100 gigs, and they're set. And now we have in health okay, because we have 3 disks and everything is working. So from here, what we'll do is actually create a Ceph file system and set up NFS, because that's going to be probably most people's use cases. For the most part, or at least to get started. But there's other things like Object Gateway and things like that. But we won't go into that for now. So to create a Ceph volume, what you want to do is on your Ceph master server with the Ceph command line, we'll create Ceph FS for file system volume, create, and then the name of the volume, so we'll just name it Ceph FS. So that will go through, create the volume. You can see now, you can see that it's actually created in here. Ideally, I would have liked, an add button right here and then just add it in the GUI, but it apparently does some probably more backend stuff. So you have to do it via the command line if you want to do it right now with this. But you'll see it creates 2 pools, a data pool where the data is stored and a metadata pool where essentially the metadata is stored for this. So now that we have the file system, what we want to do is create an NFS export. But you can't do that until you add an NFS service. So we'll add the NFS service. We'll name it NFS. We'll place it on the host, but we'll specify in this case it should connect to master. So we'll run the NFS service on master. We'll have one count for that. So essentially it'll be running one NFS service on the Ceph master server, so that you can connect to it. So we'll go back to NFS, click create. So you can see the clusters NFS, the storage backend Ceph SS. The volume is the one that we have. We got the path, and they expect it to be on NFS 4, so you actually have to do like a sudo link. So we'll just do /Ceph. You can do read only, read write, non-squash, not squish, and then you can specify clients that can access it. So we'll just do our subnet range to essentially do it. So then we can create it, and then you have your NFS share here. So what we can do is log in to another server, or we can just mount it on here. So we can mount it on Ceph Master. Actually, let's do a different server actually to make this more interesting. I could have turned on my Mailcal server or something. Let's do the build. Build. So we'll need to install NFS utils, because that's used to set up, connect to NFS. We'll make a new directory, so mkdir mount Ceph, and then we'll do the mount t type for NFS, and we will do cephmaster.dragon.local / Ceph, because that's what we have in here for the export, /Ceph. and then mount Ceph. So if we were to take a look now, we can see in here that we have 95 gigs set up here, and that's what is expected because when we created this file system actually created a few pools, which actually for the data replication, it's replicated 3 times, so 3 copies of each. And because we only have 1 gig disk, 100 gig disk, and we have 3 of them, essentially you have like 100 gigs worth of storage that you can do. So that's essentially what you can do with Ceph and create an NFS share with it. So that's it for this video. If you enjoyed the video, please leave a like, comment, and subscribe, and we'll see you guys in the next video. Bye!